My guest is Steve DiRado. We are discussing some of his fabulous photographs, and we just couldn't get enough of them. So we decided that we would run a second segment of his work so that we were able to discuss each different series. If you did not see the first series, he's an internationally known photographer and artist whom we're lucky enough to have here in the Worcester area. And today we're going to continue on our wonderful adventure of looking at his work. The Celestial series is just something anybody could love.
All right.
I have a picture of this hanging in my studio.
So the first one, we have the peak of the house, we have Comet Hyakutake, and we have clearly the Big Dipper on the right-hand side. This is 1996, and what happened was
Look at the way the Big Dipper and the Comet do this.
that they have this relationship.
But there's a dynamic tension in the photograph.
Yeah, no, everything is beautifully organized.
That's formally well put together.
That the heavens will organize itself for you in a wonderful way.
But it's also this primordial mound of the pyramid rising into the celestial firmament. You know, I mean,
at 4:10
it's
in the
all
morning.
this mythological kind of shapes and meanings.
Well, March 24th,
The shooting
4:10 in the morning,
star.
Eastern Standard Time, 1996, on the island of Martha's Vineyard in Edgartown. I have all this is written down to the minute. That I took not this big camera over my shoulder, but a small camera on a tripod, because this camera is very slow reacting to light, and it would have picked up the stars.
You need fast.
And I made a very simple, what I call pedestrian photo of this comet. And I had what they call comet fever almost instantly. And so I couldn't go to sleep, and I photographed this comet for actually a couple of weeks, couple of months. And I came back to Worcester, and I gave a couple to Terry Priest, who I think you did a show on a while back, and at that time she had a gallery, and I gave these prints, little tiny like postcards of these prints to friends, and I said, "Oh, have a couple of comet photos," and my friends are like, "Stephen, you have something here. Oh, come on, this is easy." They said, "No, you have something." Terry said to me, "My dear, I'm going to give you a show, and you're going to make money for the first time in your career." It's like, "Terry, get over it. This is nothing. This is pedestrian." She
It's
said,
so
"Stephen,
lovable. It's so lovable.
So we had the show a couple months later.
The Mall series is something to look at and contemplate and think about and have some aesthetic experience, which is very rewarding. But these are photographs to enjoy and love.
I actually
you want to hang this on your wall and look at it every day.
I actually fell in love with it, and I was so excited. And,
show some more.
So I'm going to show you more. And let's see, let's open this up. Okay, so we have this show. Terry sold more art in a short period of time than any other show she had. All of a sudden, I'm getting this money. It's like, you know, what are the people buying these things? Museums are buying them up. And guess what? Less than a year later, we had the Comet of the Millennium come about, and that was Hale-Bopp. I was already an astrophotographer in training. I already knew how to do it. And it was almost like some weird, and I believe everything's connected. I believe there's a reason for everything that I do. So it really, literally was like a wake-up call to get ready for Hale-Bopp. So in '97, I'm actually shooting the comet at 3 a.m., developing these negatives at 4 a.m., and putting them on my computer by 7 a.m., and sending them off literally to all over the world to professional artists, photographers, who became part of this group that I belonged to. And I would say, "Hey, look what I shot on Martha's Vineyard," or out in Spencer, Massachusetts.
That's the beauty of the internet.
You know, and they would say, "Oh, we're going to do these also." So what they would do, I said, "Well, look, you just need this kind of fast film, a steady tripod, you know, warm clothes, and then go with your heart's content."
What I tried to say in the beginning is how generous you are, and what a mentor you are, and how giving you are as a person and as an artist. Hey, how do you get the light behind that building?
This one we're looking at is Cow Bay, and this was shot something like around 5:20 in the morning in February, actually on Martha's Vineyard. It's a place at this point that my wife moved to, and I would go down for long weekends, so I had the perfect backdrop. I had the ocean, no lights, no ambient light from Boston.
Is that sunrise?
So you know what this is? Good for you. This is early morning twilight. Yeah. And what we see is a fog bank out in the ocean behind this.
I always think that's so romantic to have the light at the horizon rising.
And that's what's, and matter of fact, you know, again, you would think, oh, 5 in the morning, you know, in February that there would be no twilight. But guess what? There's twilight, you know, that's about an hour and a half to 2 hours before the sun actually rises. Yeah. That glows along that horizon.
And in that dry, crisp air of winter, it's clarity like you can't believe.
Yeah, and you know, and look, I never, that you mentioned earlier, that sense of awe, it never left me. So I would be driving around this island, and I would pull over, and I would just look, and there's this, you know, you're out there, and there's the heavens, and I'm 8 years old all over again, seeing for the very first time
It's a
the stars.
transcendental experience. I'm very much committed to the idea that from nature we have these transcendental experiences.
Yeah.
We experience something bigger than ourselves. We
Yeah.
experience something, you know, some people called it the divine, and you talk about the sublime. It's
Oh,
the
over
same.
and over.
It's
Yeah.
that sense of wonder, that sense of the awesome power of the nature and the universe, and these pictures carry it. But they also, you know, I can look at this and talk about plane and pattern and just
I'll go
lovely.
to another one. Here's right here in Clinton, Massachusetts, and this is I think it's called Dave's Apple Orchard, and this is a plane that is, as a friend said once, stitching across the sky. Oh, by the way, stitching across the sky, to finish that train of thought, with a street light projecting onto the barn.
So I was thinking it was moonlight. But you wouldn't have that
at times
much
I'll do that.
moonlight
Right.
on a clear,
night. But this is a night, and believe me, I worked with moonlight when I could.
But the street light adds tremendously to the patterning on the building.
Right, and then, you know, we're right within the landing trajectory of Logan Airport, so I knew where these planes would come and go, and I would line them up.
So that's a plane streaming
Yeah, it's a plane streaming
across?
across the sky. And you mentioned a technical thing, that these were shot with a black and white film that's very sensitive to low light. And all my exposures, for the most part, were 30 seconds and under. And 30 seconds was long enough to leave the lens open, you know, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, and close.
And in that period
of time, there would be planes moving or satellites moving, but the stars would seem like they're still connected to the vault overhead without any motion. Anything after that, the Earth's rotation, you get rotation. And I always fought that, because I did want to give you a sense of the visual eye, as opposed, and planes do stitch across the sky when we see them at nighttime. We'd see them where we notice the motion, but it's a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
Whereas with the stars, they do hang up there, even though, of course, they move.
You know what I like about that one too, though?
You want to talk about this?
Yeah, just a bit. I like that unexpected imposition of the world we really live in.
Right.
In other words, with the comet and the barn or the church or whatever the building is, you know, the farmhouse, it's very idyllic, but somehow that plane streaking across the sky says, wait a minute, this is today. You know, it brings it into a different plane.
You know, the building is only maybe about 100 yards away, if even that. And the plane is at 30, not even, probably 18,000 feet coming in for a landing, and it's about maybe 6 miles away. And I'm very aware of what you just talked about, the fact that these things in some ways prevent me from, like we just, you know, the ocean is another kind of a seminal
absolute kind of
environment. But yet when I come back into man-made objects or man-made flying, you know, planes and whatever
satellites.
But
I like that, because it almost takes the prettiness out of it.
Yeah.
It puts it in real world and says, hey, this still exists, but we're here in the 21st century.
I'll bring you to one that is
go ahead.
The definition of what you just talked about. 2 of them here, and I'll go back to back.
I love the way the horizon is low on these.
This one here, we're looking at Oak Bluffs, and this is East Chop Lighthouse. And this was the pun, the cliche of the lighthouse is the postcard. It was a total joke. And come to find, it's one of my most selling images, and people don't see it for the joke, because they think, oh, it's a great postcard. But
I collect lighthouses.
Yeah, I collect lighthouses. And I was like, no, you don't understand. This is an absolute joke. You know, we have the picket fence pointing up to the heavens. We have help up pointing down.
It transcends the pretty picture of the lighthouse.
You know,
the pickets are somewhat, you know, these are formal things, and even the chain link fence acts like the plane in the other one.
Yeah.
It says, I'm real world. I'm not aimed so you can't see the chain link fence.
Right.
I'm not framing this so I look like a centerfold in the girly magazine.
Yeah.
You know, this is a lighthouse, and it exists in our world.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a beacon of light, and it dictates left and right bank of Vineyard Haven Harbor. And you know what? that the stars was a way for us to guide. Still, some people use that when they're out in the ocean in their little sailboats, roaming around the sea, around the world. And so it was also a pun on that. It was also, again, pun on space. The picket fence is only a couple feet away. Lighthouse is a couple of yards away. The picket fence, oh, by the way, the fog bank off in the distance is Hyannis, 22 miles away. And then we have a comet that's 90 million miles away.
Look at the way the fog bank at the base of the lighthouse creates the horizontal you need against the white vertical of the lighthouse. So compositionally, that's
again,
so
the
striking.
design has to be there. It has to be the glue that holds it together, the formalism that you talked about. This is Edgartown Lighthouse, and the stair and the lighthouse are lit
those
by...
stairs are so wonderful.
And it's lit by the harbor view.
The stairs go into the heavens.
Yeah, the harbor view
I
down the
love
street.
the stairs.
And again, there's Hyannis off in the distance with the lights and the stairs.
5 little geometric rectangles.
Yeah.
And yet they create this whole accessibility to the beyond.
Yeah. And again, when you see this stuff when you're walking around, it's like, oh, come on, this can't be happening. This stuff is just so awkward to
What's
you.
lighting those steps?
This is the light from a quarter of a mile away from the Harbor View Inn that's just down the street.
Unbelievable.
And I've walked out this little isthmus to get out onto this stretch of beach. And
It's like Canaveral.
it's like a little, it's a primitive rocket ready to be, and you
Yes.
could go in this and you can be there.
It's like a funny rocket that's going to go to Mars.
And I'm going to come to one here that's Tisbury Meadow with a plane streaking across the sky at a very low altitude. So it's moving much quicker by perception, and so it's a longer streak. And
Are those people on the hill?
No, those are actually just small little trees.
Bushes. It almost looks like two figures walking in two directions.
And then the Pleiades on the left-hand side that we see, those little
for
wandering
heaven's
sisters,
sakes,
seven
what a
sisters
good
that you
view
see.
of them.
So
The 7 little sisters.
Again, with these walks are phenomenal. Every week I check the internet to see if there's another comet coming, or if there's some kind of occultation that's visible for the eye. I don't use a telescope. I actually use a wide-angle lens, and I want these to be the experience. I mean, the only thing missing, I guess, these days, because we become more sensitive, is that they're in black and white and not in color. And color is a problem for me. Well, one is I'm colorblind, but two is that glow in the background would be kind of that orangey, acidic glow. And the sky would have the blue stars and yellow, but I like the stripping and cleaning it up.
It has a sterility and a clarity. And
you're absolutely right.
But look at the way the point is, as a photographer, and I always say this to students too, we'll go back to that one. I wanted to say something about that. But it's the photographer is the artist not only in the darkroom, but he's the artist when he selects the subject. The way you walked that area until you knew that the light was going to be right at that V. You had to know that spot. You had to be familiar with that. You had to have the eyes that knew that place.
I know every rock.
But that's where the artist has his vision. And that's as much a part, more as clicking the lens or going in the dark room and making the exposure.
Now, of course, there are artists there are watercolorists, there are painters the landscape artists that go out there. I see them all over Martha's Vineyard that take their portable easels and they'll go up and they'll find a vista and they've never been there before, and they'll go with that gut feel about what they see right then and there. I work totally opposite. We talked about how I go back and forth to the mall. I go back and forth to the Belle Pond series.
You digest it.
And the thing is that to this day, I've walked these are parts of the sanctuaries on Martha's Vineyard and Sheriff's Meadows and the Land Bank, all of these incredible areas around the island. And I walk them morning, noon, and night, and after midnight. And I know every nuance about those places.
You know where the sun is going to set.
Oh, I know
where
clearly
the
where
moon is going to rise.
Yes.
You know where. Yes. And you see, this is something I feel is being lost in our culture, is that kind of connectedness to nature. Boy, does this break my heart. It's like we see nature through the television. We see nature only like 3 steps removed. It's all secondhand experience. I work in the garden, and I feel, in a way, I'm reading this book about the Eskimos and how they talk about native eyes and how their eyes see 100,000 things that we don't see because our eyes don't know what to look for. They can't see it. They can't discover it because it's not there for us. And that's so important. As an artist has to have native eyes. They have to get there and relate and interact and open up to what's there before them?
It's a plateau I reach frequently, and particularly the summer months are coming up now. Here it is, late May, and in June, July, and August, I'm going to be working 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Immersed.
Immersed, and I'm going
In
to
the
be,
subject.
as some would say, a monk. I will have my routine of waking, eating a very light
But that's
breakfast.
how you come into
Right.
communion with that
Cleaning the
environment.
camera, the device that I use, literally cleaning the camera, washing it down from the previous day with the salt.
Ritual.
And then developing the negatives, very simple. I still do the matter of fact, what I'm doing is I did 150 years ago, open trays with chemistry in the dark, and then hanging these negatives up on a clothesline to inspect them, labeling them, all the information that goes into this box.
Like the
And
guys did on the expeditions to the
you know,
West
it's
and
like
carried the boxes.
I'm routing out a piece of history that needs
Yeah.
to be held on to for generations to come. This is another philosophical aspect of what I do, and it's about that slowness.
The
I'm making
philosophical
photos.
aspects are so important, and that again,
yeah.
you can't be having art without that kind of philosophical content, which gives it significance.
I want people to look at these photos 20 years, 200 years, if possible 2,000 years from
And
now,
still
get it, to get how we lived. And as a matter of fact, that was the name of the show
But
that
how
I had.
we all
the
live
Fitchburg, how
in
we-
any century.
Well, again,
It's
we
the
look at
deepest stuff.
we look back at those Renaissance paintings, and
Yeah.
we can identify on some
Yeah.
level, and we watching how they lived. I am so, again, in that sense of awe over the fact that we can go there. We can
Yeah.
go back 400 years, 600 years, and I want people to look at these photos, and I want them to go back there. I want them to see how we existed, how we lived, what we
It's
cherished.
not something to throw away tomorrow.
No, it isn't.
No,
It's not.
something
It's
that
not fast food.
records your vision,
Yeah.
that records the
Yeah.
moment, that records your interaction
Yeah.
with the environment.
Yeah. So it's a burden on my shoulders. It's a respect to what I do, my respect to this boss. I'm the boss, and the fact is that when I go and shoot, this beach project or dinners throughout the day, I'm in that state of mind. I'm totally, completely disconnected on one level, but so engaged on another level. And
You have to get outside of yourself.
and matter of fact, we're going to go to jump on a tiny bit. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to go through a couple
Well,
more of these,
let's
and I can talk
go-
about that.
Just
how it
go
happens.
go through a few
So
of
let's go
these
through a couple more. Here
very
we have Tisbury
quickly.
Meadow, and then we're going to jump to,
And,
this is Lamberts Cove Beach, and this is looking back towards New Bedford.
Yeah, we should probably, if we want to cover the other series, we got to move forward.
Yeah, and then this
I know
is
I want
Lucy
people
Vincent
to see
Beach.
these. Oh, wow.
And this is, again, twilight at 8 in the evening. This is back here in Spencer, and this is at the St. Joseph's Abbey. And, I'm out there illegally at nighttime, which they found out about, which we had a few nice words exchanged. It was very sweet. And this is Aquina Beach that we see here. And those are actually my footprints in the sand, so I can give you a sense of scale. Again, being responsible for the frame. Here's these incredible rocks. How big are they? Are they
That
small?
is
They large?
stunning.
So I literally
Stunning.
ran up and down the beach so that I would have some footprint.
I'd like to show the audience some of your environments because,
Sure.
first of all, they're local places. A lot of them are just so magical.
They're around Worcester.
Well, it looks like fairyland. And I wondered, are these with ambient light?
All these photos are back to the big camera and a shot by way of ambient light, and usually during a weather event, a snowstorm or a rainstorm. Usually later in the evening. This first one we're looking at is just feet from my house off of Shrewsbury Street, and this is actually during a nor'easter. And we're looking at an old triple-decker right before Christmas, and the camera is making a time exposure. Or I'm opening up the lens,
Oh,
20,
yeah.
about 20 minutes, literally
that's-
20 minutes for the
Wow.
ambient light of the snow falling
And that's why the
through
sky
city.
is visible.
And it's like it's a natural way to illuminate all of the nooks and crannies and create this amazingly magic effect that you see here. And also, you can see that the road has not been plowed, and there's evidence of people walking through this environment. So there are these wonderful moments during adverse weather conditions
Sure.
that I'm out to capture.
Well, there's the whole thing of being safe and warm inside.
You know, you
with
wonder what the people,
the way
yeah.
the windows
Yeah.
glow, and also this very mysterious path that leads down. You're looking right down that little tiny alley road. It almost leads you to some unknown place with light. Let's see another.
Yeah, and again, you know, all the festivities, the Christmas lights, and all those things.
Yeah.
Another one, it would be this one here, shot on Summer Street here in Worcester, and we're looking down. Matter of fact, this area is all gone now. This is also, and I knew that these buildings were going to be knocked down.
Wow.
So this is looking back into the city and how Summer Street's gone through all these changes, and I knew this old gas station was going to be torn down. And again, the tracks of the tires in the foreground.
The tracks.
Yeah, and again, compositional design, that we have this drama in the foreground, and we work our way back into this space, and again, with the tower in the background downtown. And again, another one of these 20-minute, maybe half-hour exposures. It's great because I'm walking around the city with this camera over my shoulder for hours on end, and I come across these environments, and I set the tripod legs down, focus underneath the dark cloth, put a sheet of film on the camera, and then basically shiver for the next.
You have to stand there.
And you know, look at your
and
watch.
feel the pain.
And, you know, kind of wave
Feel
as
the
people
pain.
walk by, and
But again, looking at the angle of the stripes,
Yeah.
the way they just angle up into the composition, and that dynamic tension between the other line, it's wonderful. Go ahead.
This next one this was actually a commission. This is one of the very few commissions that I take on. I tend not to do any freelance, by the way, and I tend not to take on all kinds of commissions because I just feel that I get so absorbed into the project that it's on my own terms and never the client's.
Yeah.
But this particular one, I was asked by the Worcester Preservation Society through the Historical Museum to document the last days of the old Union Station, the train station, before it was reconstructed. It's beautiful, it's stunning now, but this is what it looked like back many years ago.
I have been in there in those days.
Yeah, it's a pretty frightening
people
environment.
and I did a run by in there, and it was spooky.
It really,
it was very spooky.
as we know, there was a murder that took place in this place right when I made this photo. Very, 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 very
Isn't
sad.
it unbelievable?
And I actually went in with I usually don't work with an assistant, but in this case, my assistant was my extra eyes to keep an eye on me while I had my head underneath the dark cloth.
Because you could
with
have
this
been
camera
mugged or
focusing,
something.
and somebody could have come along.
Well,
so there's
we
another
took
one.
students in there one time, and the woman who was with me was an elderly woman, and she was telling, it brought tears to her eyes to be in there, because she said she remembered going off to war. She was a WAC or something.
Wow.
And she said, I remember standing in this space and looking up at the clock and waiting and knowing that I was leaving. And I mean, what stories it held, you know?
Yeah, it's very unearthly. And
Yeah.
you know, actually, it's an oddity. I'm not sure if it's one of my pertinent photos for what I do, but boy, how can you not make that photo when you're in there?
It's fabulous.
Another one staying with the theme of these night photos in Worcester. This one is fairly recent, only a few years ago. This is literally outside my kitchen window. And this is a snowman that my grandchild Zach made. And, you know, dead of winter, January, probably like 5 in the evening, and the sun is already long gone. And it's just, you know, this smiling little...
it has such a personality.
Yeah, you know, and then there's the street behind us with the snow tuffets on the columns that you see.
You know what's amazing too, though? Your work is never sentimental or cute.
I am so
Now
aware of
this
that.
is funny.
But still,
this is funny, but it has that tension between humor and darkness, and so it doesn't take on, like, you don't look at this as the cute Christmas card.
I can't do that.
No,
it's impossible for me to do that. But again, it felt like, you know, even though we live in these little silly little quadrant off houses here in the city, and again, I live in a triple decker right off of Shrewsbury Street, my wife and I, is that even in our own little domain that we have these recreational moments, you know, that we can go, these
You go in the
whimsy.
yard and gather up the snow.
And so it's part of that narrative as well.
It's to go in the yard
snowman,
and gather the snow.
But it's much deeper. Here's another one that is on the corner of...
I know it.
I think it's
recognize
Harding
it.
Street. I think it's Harding and Pond. It says right there above the stop sign. And this is a very light snow. This is one of those evenings where it's 32 degrees
I can
and the
see
flakes
the wet
are falling.
on the street.
Yeah, and it's like maybe late February, March, and it's warm.
Yes.
We've acclimated ourselves to the winter, and a night that's like this, it's a stroll through the town. The snow barely sticks to the street, and it has this wonderful etched effect when cars drive through it. And this is one of my most formal photos, and you bring that word up.
So you were saying you really loved the idea of the weather and the aspects of the forces of nature and what they do.
And actually, this is a theme that these are kind of false starts, these environments. I've been wanting to shoot weather all my entire life, frankly. Matter of fact, when I was a kid growing up, I was going to be an astronomer, but I realized it was all math. So I wasn't interested in that part of it. I wanted to do the visual stuff. And then I wanted to be a weatherman, but then I didn't like the repetition of how they just kept looking at maps every 20 minutes.
That's all statistics and maps.
Right, and then I realized it was about the visuals of both of those things that you're seeing here. Weather's the most difficult thing to record.
Weather is the forces of nature forming our environment.
Right.
That's what it is.
Try to capture that on film without it being like the Weather Channel or sentimental or something melodramatic to the point that you can't get into what's happening.
Going back to the idea of the native eyes and the way they see the world differently and how we're removed from that. I remember reading somewhere where the Inuit they have like 100 words for snow.
They do. They absolutely, yes.
Like we have sleep, 5 words. They have 100 words because they see nuance that we can't see.
We can't see that. No, absolutely true. I might have, let me see. Some of these, of course, are Martha's Vineyard. I think we might have covered all of the Worcester.
Oh, that's good. That gives a sense.
Those are all.
That
I'm doing
gives
the
a
same thing on
sense
Martha's
of
Vineyard as well,
the Worcester scenes than the environments. Now these are environments on the vineyard.
It's just this little. It's like a little dome of sand that is dried out, that's pouring through the cliffs of Martha's Vineyard
for
up at
heaven's
Aquina.
sakes.
And it's just, here again.
So it's being formed as we speak.
As we speak, it's literally flowing. It's an exposure maybe
Looks
of
like
half
a
second.
large you-know-what.
Sue.
I thought it was one of the beach people.
No, in this case, it really is a little mound of
sand.
But again, the rocks were eroded by the ocean by rounding off, and then the sand here is of course coming from the cliffs. So there's all of these elements that you see that's involved with this kind of thing.
I love the fact that it's nature forming itself.
Right in front of us. And again, the all-seeing eye, to be perceptive to this, to be aware of this.
And again, natural forces acting on matter creates form.
Yeah, I'm gonna end with this one here, which is a foggy evening in the town of Edgartown, and the harbor of Edgartown. And we actually see a fog bank that is rolling through, and right where the camera is placed, it lifted in my immediate area, so I got some foreground contrast. And so we have foreground contrast, and we have all of the other elements that are in this wonderful fog.
What a geometric grid-like structure that has.
So again, it's about the fog, it's about weather. So
almost like a Mondrian, it's
it has that kind of quadrant off and its geometric shapes. I'll be doing these forever.
This show is the second of a 3-part series on Steve DiRado. Join us next time for the third and final segment.